Let's get welcome back to another edition of the Hampton Show. Joel, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great. The Knicks are advancing in the NBA Cup tournament. They're going to Vegas. OKC is on the verge of shattering Golden State's regular season win record. You know, something that one of us may have made a take on in the offseason. So things are going great.
It wouldn't be the start to this podcast if you weren't taking a victory lap about something. Today we're revealing one player on every NBA team that most likely will be traded from that team. But first, we're playing a game called True or False. And Joel, we're going to start with what you started with, your New York Knicks. Tell me, fact or fiction? The Knicks do not need a Giannis trade.
They don't. It's not the same thing, but I think the same analogy can be made. Strength in numbers is what wins in the NBA. And a Giannis trade would diminish the Knicks' depth, their treasure chest of assets long term. Not that they have a ton of assets long term, but it reminds me a lot of the Carmelo Anthony trade. That Knicks team wasn't in the position to make a move. They rushed it. We're in a different position now. But given what a Giannis trade package is going to be, like I'm not thinking in this scenario that the Knicks could give them Cat and a pick and then get Giannis straight up. I'm thinking of a scenario that is more realistic where Cat is gone. Mikal Bridges might be gone. One of Mikal or OG, that's a given. And maybe some role players like Deuce McBride and somebody else. I think that the Knicks should be patient. If Giannis really wants to get to New York, he'll find a way to get to New York. And he's not under contract for that much longer. He has a player option coming up. So if the Knicks really want to make a move for Giannis, be patient. Stand pat. Don't rush it. Build the chemistry up with this squad because they're playing amazing basketball, and don't ruin a good thing because you think you could get better.
Yeah, this is true for a completely different reason than what you named. Number one, it's a complete flip-flop from last week. I don't hate you for changing your mind. I changed my mind, Joel. Everybody changes their mind. But when 7 days ago, this same topic, this same question was presented to you, you not only said Cat, you said F it. If Jalen Brunson has to be in the trade, I would do it. Bro, it's Giannis. And now that you've watched, 3 more games of Knicks basketball, you have came to this conclusion that you don't need him because of the trade package. Well, I'm going to give you another reason you don't need him, and it's because of what this team is. They're 10th in defensive rating. They're 3rd in offensive rating. Mike Brown has not only improved this team's offense, he has improved their defense, which nobody expected. And I know that the talk around Karl Anthony Towns is that he's having a down year. You don't know how he's going to fit in this offense, but 22-12 is enough from him. Regardless of how he's performing, you have seen it on the court, and it's resulted in wins after wins after wins. And the excuse from Knicks fans before this week is they haven't beaten good teams. Well, now they have. And New York, at this point, without Giannis, has won more playoff series last season alone than Giannis has won in the last 4 years combined. I'm not questioning the greatness of Giannis. He's one of the best players on planet Earth. I don't know how much winning it results in 2025.
It results in a lot of winning if you got a team around him. But if you trade for Giannis and it's Brunson and Giannis, it's no different than Dame and Giannis in a sense. It's a ball-dominant guard with a big man, and the depth around them is lessened because you had to make a trade like that. So that's why it's not appealing. And I think that in this era where you have Oklahoma City, sorry, I said Golden State. I was saying about another dynasty. When you have Oklahoma City dominating how they're dominating, I don't know how fast you should be to pull the trigger on a win-now trade when it feels like OKC is unstoppable.
What made you change your mind over the last 7 days?
I slept on it. That's it.
Was I in your dreams?
You had some sort of influence on the decision, you know, all the chatter on the podcast. It made me rethink about things a little bit. But
I don't think I ever
sense.
make you rethink about anything ever. I just think you wake up certain days and you're like, you know what? This is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, how can I have a difference of opinion?
Yeah.
They don't need Giannis.
No, but you believe the shit you say. You definitely do. All right, here's the second one. Fact or fiction, the Miami Heat are a phased and not a playoff team.
They're a playoff team, but they're also a phase. I think they're similar to Toronto. Those are the two teams in the East right now that they started off hot and now they're cooling off. Chicago as well, but Chicago is like playing territory where I think the Raptors and the Heat are playoff teams. Miami just doesn't have the perimeter defense to consistently win at a high level. I think their defensive rating numbers are a bit fake, and offensively, it's not that the system isn't working. I think the system is working. I just believe that when Tyler Hero was brought back to the lineup, it messed up a lot of the chemistry that they already built. And Tyler Hero is a weird player, and I think the Ewing theory for him might apply. You know, we've seen Miami make deep playoff runs with Tyler Hero. We've seen Tyler Hero, although be an all-star and average 24 points per game last year, the Heat's offense wasn't good. So that means that his numbers didn't translate into an efficient team offense. And I think what Miami needs is a player that doesn't have as high of usage, doesn't have the ball as much, that can consistently lead to good offense. And that's what Miami had earlier in the year. And I think Tyler Hero coming into the scene, it just made everybody have to shift the role just a little bit. And I think that's something that they're getting used to still.
Yeah, it's a fact. They are a phase, and I understand where you're going as far as the Eastern Conference. You think they're a playoff team. I don't believe that one bit. I can name six teams off the top of my head that I believe in more than them. It's your New York Knicks, it's the Detroit Pistons, the Boston Celtics, Orlando Magic, Cleveland Cavaliers, and even the Atlanta Hawks. I think that Miami will finish as a play-in team. And we have talked about multiple times on this podcast, and you have praised Noah LaRoche for this new offense he has instilled as an assistant next to Eric Spoelstra, and rightfully so. It was an amazing offense to start off the season, but Memphis fans, Grizzlies fans especially, knew something that a lot of people didn't, and the newness of this system wears off as the season goes on. Last year, it felt like everybody on the Grizzlies was eating except for the star players. I'm not just talking about Ja Morant. Jaren Jackson ate in this offense, but a lot of guys struggled. He instilled this exact same offense in Memphis last year, and as teams started to see it and game plan for it, especially with the personnel that they had in Memphis and now the personnel they have in Miami, teams know what to expect. They know how to stop it, and that's why they've lost 4 games in a row for the Miami Heat. And now I get it. People have blamed Ja Morant. You can't blame Jaren Jackson anymore, and now you're starting to blame Tyler Hero. Maybe it's on the offense and not the star players that are in the offense. Maybe the offense benefits everybody except the best players on the team. And that shit works in Europe. I don't know if it works in the NBA.
I think that you just need the players to consistently be able to create for themselves because the offense isn't some patty cake, everybody gets a cake offense. The offense is simple. They don't use a ton of ball screens.
Right.
They cut off the ball. It's a lot of off ball movement, and it's about driving and kicking, which means that you need a player that can consistently drive to the basket and kick out for open shots. Ideally, looking back at Memphis, that's something that Ja Morant should thrive in. But Ja Morant's rim pressure has lessened over the course of the past couple of seasons. This year, like Tyler Hero, how good is he as a one-on-one isolation creator? He's okay. I think he's better than average, but comparatively to the top guys, he's not up there in terms of his isolation numbers. So in this offense specifically, you need great isolation players. And Miami doesn't have many great isolation players. Their best one is one of the leaders in Sixth Man of the Year voting right now, and that's Jaime Jaquez. Jaime Jaquez is really good at driving to the basket, but you can't expect that from him every single night. So I just think that they don't have the players. Like if this was an offense for like SGA, I think it'd be perfect, because he's one of the best isolation players in the league. But it's not. You're banking on Tyler Hero, Norman Powell to have an extensive part of the workload in terms of making this offense work.
I think there's a lot of credit given to this offense that shouldn't be. I think if Helen Keller was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's coach, I think they would be fine in Oklahoma City with the roster around him. As far as you can probably count on one hand how many teams this offense would be perfect for. I understand what you're saying. You're right. Tyler Hero is not an attack the rim guy. Ja Morant, that is definitely faded in his game. However, whenever you have something so niche that works only with certain type of guys, I don't know how good that system is. And in Europe, whenever there's a level of play that is different from here it's the talent is so skewed in different directions. In Europe, it's not like that. The athletes that you have, the defenders you have in the NBA are not in Europe like they are here, which is why I think in Miami it has faded off a little bit. This offense continues to run downhill, and that's why the Grizzlies cannot beat teams with a winning record. They had no problem beating the Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Wizards, the Utah Jazz last year. They couldn't beat good teams. They were like the New York Knicks, except worse. And that's why the Grizzlies ultimately moved on from Noah LaRoche. And in Miami, I think Eric Spoelstra would be wise either to go to the front office to ask for a move to get pieces to fit Noah LaRoche's offense or move on from him entirely.
Okay, that's strong, Jackson. That's strong.
Let's move on. Final one. Fact or fiction? Anthony Davis has worse trade value than LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, and Ja Morant.
That's false. Anthony Davis is the biggest needle mover in the trade market right now.
Explain.
Because he can actually swing a championship. Anthony Davis, when healthy, is better than all those players. LaMelo, it can't stay healthy, and his game, you don't even know if it can translate to winning. Ja Morant, he's regressing every year. You can't count on him at all. Like Anthony Davis, like if there's one player that you mentioned, Anthony Davis is the most reliable, and that's saying something, but he is.
We're not talking about reliability. We're talking about trade value. LaMelo Ball is way younger than Anthony Davis. Trae Young is younger than Anthony Davis. Ja Morant is younger than Anthony Davis. As far as trade value, it just came out seconds before we came on the podcast, Joel. Detroit's not interested. I don't know what teams are willing to take a swing on Anthony Davis. We've talked about the Warriors. In your eyes, you wouldn't give up Draymond Green for Anthony Davis, which is utterly and completely ridiculous on your end. I don't know what trade value he has, and that's why it's true. He does have worse trade value than Melo, Trae, and Ja, and it's not close.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Just because he doesn't have much value across the league doesn't mean that he has less value than these players you're naming, because the players you're naming have zero value. You know, Anthony Davis might not have the best value. It might not be good value, but he doesn't have like negative value.
The comment is Anthony Davis has worse trade value than LaMelo, Trae, and Ja. That is the fact or fiction, and that
false.
is a fact.
No, that's false.
You have yet to explain it. You just said Anthony Davis is
more
reliable than any of those guys. That was your answer.
Your answer for why they're more reliable, at least LaMelo, is because he is younger. LaMelo Ball is more injury prone than Anthony Davis and doesn't make the impact of Anthony Davis. And then you look at Ja Morant, he's regressing every year, and he's also injury prone. You can argue more than Anthony Davis. So in saying that, I also believe that in the NBA right now, there's more great guards than there are great big men. You can't name me 6 teams that would realistically take on Ja Morant's services right now.
That's ridiculous. Oh, 6 teams? I'm not counting the 6 here. By the way, if that's true, if nobody's interested in Ja, then why does everybody keep leaking out their own reports of, hey, we've talked about him. Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, we've talked about a Ja Morant trade. Miami, you talked about Tyler Hero. Hey, we've talked about a Ja Morant trade. We think we could change Ja Morant. Why is everybody leaking that out of their own organization if they don't want him? I've not heard that at all about Anthony Davis. In fact, we just heard the opposite.
So you think that Miami would rather trade for Ja Morant than Anthony Davis?
What would Anthony Davis realistically bring in Miami? Ja, you at least have a 5-year window you could talk yourself into. I wouldn't believe in it. You wouldn't believe in it. But Anthony Davis, you have no idea what is left in him. We have not seen him play really consistently since that injury last year.
Well, yeah, we do know what's left in him. He's still a great player.
Yeah, I'm talking about trade value, Joel. And when you're talking about guys that are almost a decade younger than Anthony Davis, it's simple. They have more trade value than AD.
Just because you're younger doesn't mean you have more trade value.
That is a huge part of it. It's not the entire reason.
That is the only thing the players you're mentioning have going for them.
Yes, it is.
That is it. But in the modern game, there are so many great guards that it's really not necessary to make a big move and swing like that.
All 4 of these options don't have a lot of trade value. I'm just saying 3 have more than Anthony Davis. And there's a reason nobody has talked about trading for him. Nobody. If Golden State could do it, I think they would. They just don't have the assets, and I think Dallas would want to do it. But
Now, if you,
still, even Golden State, no reports has even came out about that they're even interested in him.
now if you're putting it like that, yeah, those three combined have more trade value than AD.
I didn't say
But
combined.
not
I didn't
not
say combined.
not
I said individually.
not individually. No way.
Look,
No way.
I think the argument is LaMelo. You keep bringing it back to Ja because you just want to keep jabbing
Well,
this knife
Ja's
into
not an
my chest
argument.
about it. You're
Ja's not
right.
an
He's not
argument.
an argument. Ja
No,
has
no,
a
yeah,
lot more trade
AD
value,
is
and that's why
clear.
every team goes into a little huddle and talks about it, and then leaks it out to whoever they want to leak it out to. You're right. Ja is not an argument. Trae Young, I don't think is either. Trae's better player than all three of the other guys we've talked about. LaMelo is the argument. He's just as unreliable as Anthony Davis, but when he's on the court, he doesn't bring the same value that AD brings. That's the argument. It's not Ja Morant. It's not Ja Morant, and I'm not biased about
Of
it either.
course, it's not Ja. I mean, yeah, we know AD clears. One guy's a champion. The other guys, you just have major question marks about. Like, if you wanted to tell me Trae Young has more trade value, I can hear it a little bit more.
He was a
But no,
champion half a decade ago. Can we get serious?
AD is still really good, and I think he still has trade value across the league. Maybe teams are just not leaking things.
Where does he land?
I don't know. I think that it's hard right now to put a finger on where he's going to land, but I think he can swing things. I think he can. I think he's that good.
Would you trade Karl Anthony Towns for him?
No.
Let's move on. One player on every NBA team most likely to be traded. As always, we're starting with the Atlanta Hawks. Speaking of Trae Young, I think that's the guy. They went on a little run without him. The extension, all that argument and kind of tension that lasted over the summer, I think is something to be noted. He did not get what he wanted to there. There could be hard feelings. It's one of those situations where I don't know who's going to call the shot. I don't know if Trae's going to ask out or if Atlanta's going to trade him first. It could go either way. And, for all those reasons, that's why I think Trae Young's the number one guy to get traded on the Hawks.
I don't even think it's a specific player. I think it's just a 2026 first round pick. If the Hawks are serious about going all in and winning this year, then I think that trade is that pick is gonna be packaged for something. Yeah. And I don't see the Hawks getting better by trading away Trae Young. Yeah. And if the goal is to win this year, then that's the move that's gonna be made for them.
I completely agree with that notion too. Next two teams, Celtics and Nets. Celtics, it's the easiest one on the list, Anthony Simons. He's never been a part of their future at all. Brooklyn Nets, I literally wrote down no one because what on their team has value to anybody else? I don't know. You think it's Michael Porter Jr., but it's not with that contract.
MPJ is playing like a star, man. I wouldn't want to trade him anyway if I was the Nets.
Lord have mercy.
The Celtics, Anthony Simons, I think is the
Are
obvious
you a Nets
one.
fan?
No, I just watch them.
Okay. Yeah,
I like them.
You like the Yes Network?
Yeah, I like them. Anthony Simons is the obvious one. There have been rumors about them trying to get a center, and if it's Ivica Zubac from the Clippers, I like that a lot for them. They'd have to package something good to go get him with some picks, of course, but I think that'd be really good for them. The Nets, I think it's Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas, I know he doesn't have much value across the league, but his contract also is not bad. It's not backbreaking. If you can get a six-man to just come in, get some buckets for you, and then that's it, not have a huge load like he's having to carry in Brooklyn, I think that's fine for a team that needs some more offensive juice off the bench.
You brought up Ivica Zubac, and I saw a mock trade, I believe, on Bleacher Report the other day. And for Oklahoma City, I was going to get to them later. To be clear, I literally put no one because of how much they're winning. They don't need a trade, completely get it there. But a mock trade that kind of raised my eyebrows would be next summer. Isaiah Hartenstein, he's going to put them really in a bind as far as who they can pay, what they can do moving forward. And if they paired that, 2026 first round pick that they own from the Clippers with him, I think they can make a real run at Ivica Zubac, who is a cheaper option than Isaiah Hartenstein. So they could replace Hartenstein with a better player for less money if they attach that pick to him. And in my eyes, I would only attach that pick if it's outside of the top 5. I'm not attaching the number 1 overall pick to Hartenstein to trade for Zubac. I'm not saying that. But if it is 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm 100% doing that trade 10 times out of 10. And do you agree with that?
I wouldn't touch it if I was OKC. Hartenstein is making a lot of money, but I'm pretty sure that after this year it expires. So they could just let him walk. That's why they drafted Thomas Sorber, who's out for the year, but he was a rookie that they were hoping to develop. He's a big man. This is what they're going to do. They're going to replace and replenish. A lot of the players that they have right now, like Lou Dort, Hartenstein, the role players they have, guys outside the big three, it's going to be replace, replenish. That's what it is. And they have enough picks to be able to do so.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's move on to the Charlotte Hornets. I think LaMelo Ball, ideally, Miles Bridges seems more likely. I think you take advantage of how many points he's averaging and trade him while he has value.
Charlotte is interesting. Is it time to just build around Concanepple? Is that where we're headed now?
Could be.
Miles Bridges, he has too much of a negative reputation for me to name him. I think it's LaMelo. I think it's LaMelo.
I did too.
We already saw reports of him potentially getting moved, him not being too happy with it. He denounced that reporting. It came from somewhere. Either if it was from LaMelo's camp or Charlotte's camp, it came from somewhere. So I think that those two sides are probably headed towards a divorce.
I think you're right. Side note: Con Knipple is by far the most boring player to interview. If you ever happen across that bridge, just be warned with that. Con Knipple, amazing rookie year, but my God, he's boring as fuck.
Why was he boring?
He just was. He seemed like more nervous than I was because like obviously like I still pinch myself. Like I think it's super cool that we get to talk to players and stuff. But I think he hadn't played an NBA game yet too. So I caught him at media day, his first day of school for him. I think he was just nervous. But yeah, he didn't talk much at all. Brandon Miller was the complete opposite. Brandon Miller was like the class clown.
Brandon Miller, man, he's just got to stay healthy.
Got to. Chicago Bulls, Vucevic. I put on here. You could add Io DeSumo to it, but I think Vooch is the guy they want to move. It's just a matter of if they can. I think Io is the easier option to move.
I agree. Kobe White's another option. If they don't have plans of paying him, then you try to get something for him.
Yep. Cleveland Cavaliers are next. I put Jared Allen. Evan Mobley is playing like 2/3 of his minutes now at center, and Jared Allen just feels like he's not part of that future. He's averaging or tied a career low in minutes for his entire career. It's the lowest amount of minutes he has played per game since his rookie season. So I just feel like he's on his way out the door. And a lot of contenders would be interested in a Jared Allen. God knows what they could get for him. I think it would take them below the luxury tax. It would free them up and get some desperately needed assets and flexibility that they need, I think, to put this team over the top. So Jared Allen is the name to watch in Cleveland.
He's the only one that feels like the odd man out there. Their core is locked in. They have good role players to help support them. They've been one of the most disappointing teams this year. And maybe it's because we expected more from Evan Mobley offensively, partly due to the fact that last year at center, he played really well offensively. So maybe that can expand his game. But I think Allen's the odd man out. If it wasn't him, I think maybe Max Strus becomes a bit expendable with the rise of Jalen Tyson. But even then, I think that they are probably fine with having all those wings.
For sure. Dallas Mavericks are next. I was going to put Daniel Gafford on here until I got the lively news. It seems like they're going to want him on the roster for the rest of the season, no matter how it ends up. So Anthony Davis is the easy option here.
I'm going to go with Najee Marshall. I think Najee Marshall is one of the better glue guys in the league. And I want to see him somewhere where he can win games and he's playing meaningful basketball.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was at the Pelicans before this. He needs to be playing meaningful basketball for sure. Denver Nuggets. I said attach an asset to Zeke Naji. That contract that Zeke Naji is on has been a Hall of Fame terrible, terrible deal. I believe it was a 4-year, $32 million deal, similar to Max Christie's that he got in LA before getting traded to Dallas. I think Zeke Naji's playing below 10 minutes a game too, so it's just not a good deal for Denver. And if they can move off that money, I think that would do great for them.
That was an awful contract in the moment, and it's aged even more poorly. I just don't know how you're going to get off of Zeke Naji.
You would have to attach an asset to it for sure. Have to attach an asset to it.
That's the only guy, though. They have their team set. The team we see now is the team they're going to make a playoff run with.
For sure. The Detroit Pistons, I put on here, we talked about earlier in the pod how they're not interested in AD, and I don't blame them. Anthony Davis is not the move to make to match with Cade Cunningham for the future. If you're going to go for a big name like Lauri Markkanen, Tobias Harris is going to be the guy who has to be in that deal to make money match. But to me, the more realistic name is Karis LeVert, and that is because of Dennis Jenkins and what he has brought to them. But again, if it's a big name, Tobias has to be in it. If it's more of, on the edges move, Karis LeVert is the guy to look for.
I'm going to go with Jaden Ivey. I just really haven't been that impressed with his return to Detroit. he's coming off an injury, so I understand. You got to give him time to reintegrate himself into the team. I just don't know how well he fits on this current roster.
They're 19-5, Joel.
They are. They did it mostly without him.
Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga. Same answer, different year.
I'm going to go Brandon Pajemski.
Houston Rockets, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Can't trade Finney-Smith.
Why? Tari Eason. If his shooting can continue to... If he continues to shoot the rock like he is, he don't need DFS. Come to Memphis. You know how much I love him?
Aaron Holiday.
They already need guard depth.
Yeah, I like Aaron Holiday too. I don't see them making a trade either. I think their squad is what it is.
Okay, that's fair. Indiana Pacers, Benedict Mathurin.
It's quite clearly Benedict Mathurin. Contract year, scoring a lot of points. They need a center in return. That's going to be the guy to go.
We can run through three real quick. Clippers, John Collins. Seems easy. You can't trade Harden and Kawhi. Even if you wanted to, you can't trade them. Other team in LA, the Lakers, I put Gabe Vincent. Rui seems like a staple in the starting lineup. Gabe seems like the odd man out. Grizzlies, low-hanging fruits, Ja Morant, if he wanted to be out, which he doesn't, or if the team wanted to trade him, which they don't, so it's not Ja Morant. I put G.G. Jackson. Maybe somebody takes a flyer on him. Seems like the most likely guy to be traded on that team.
Clippers, I'm going to go with James Harden. At least I hope he wants out because I want to see him play meaningful basketball and try to win. So I hope he has out. Lakers, Dalton Connect. I think they've been trying to move him since last year. You saw when the Hornets trade fell through, they were kind of upset about it. And Dalton Connect, I feel like never recovered from that moment. And then the Grizzlies, I think it is G.G. Jackson. Ja Morant is the obvious one. KCP's contract is too big.
Right.
They don't really have enough players. I feel like that maybe another team would want. Another name that comes to mind is Scottie Pippen Jr. I don't think that's out of the question. Another guy on a contract year. Maybe someone could use some guard depth and they go get him. So those are the players I think that the Grizzlies would be open to trade.
100%. I was going to put Scottie on here. Everything I hear is that he's probably not even going to play this season. And I think he would have so much trade value right now. Whenever Fred VanVleet went down, I was like, God, how much could we get for Scottie Pippen if he was healthy? But he's not. So him being in the contract year as well, I don't think a lot of people are going to want to take on an injured player and then have the responsibility to pay him in the summer. I think he gets a good deal in free agency, but as far as a trade piece, I just don't know if they can do it. The next three teams, Miami Heat, I put Tyler Hero because it was a fun answer, and I know you're going to have him on here with how much you bashed him, quite frankly, in the false or fact or fiction segment. Bucks, Giannis, it's an easy one. Timberwolves, I put Dante DiVincenzo or Julius Randle. So that was a Heat, Bucks, and Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves are by far the most interesting one. They desperately need a point guard, and it seems like with the contract they gave Naz Reid, they believe that he can replace Julius Randle, and Julius may be on his way out the door.
With the Bucks, I feel as if Kyle Kuzma's contract and any deal for Giannis is going to be a staple of the deal.
100. Yep.
So I think Kyle Kuzma is very, very likely to get traded in the package with Giannis. The Timberwolves, I feel like it has to be one of their role players. They need a point guard desperately. I think that there are certain untouchables for the Wolves roster right now. I think Ant-Man, of course, McDaniels, Randall, Naz Reid, Gobert. You don't want to move them. Dante is movable. Rob Dillingham, you start exploring other avenues for Rob Dillingham. Jalen Clark is movable. Mike Conley is movable. Those are the players that I would classify as movable on that roster. Outside of that, I can't think of anybody else for that team specifically.
Let's move to the New Orleans Pelicans. They're by far the most interesting on this list, so we're going to pause here a second. Zion Williamson is the guy that they seem like they want to move. I just don't know if the market is there. Zion's in that class of LaMelo Ball and Anthony Davis and all the names we talked about earlier. I think the only team desperate enough to make a move for Zion would be the Clippers. I was listening to Bill Simmons earlier today, and he was like, the Clippers, if they were to make this move, it would be like being in a casino down $1 million and putting it all on black. And that's the bet. That's the only thing that gets you out of it. You're already down $1 million. You got nothing to lose, and hopefully Zion can fix it. It's not a bet I would take, but that is a good comp to what it would be like. Jose Alvarado on the Pelicans, I love the idea of him in Minnesota. You mentioned Dante DiVincenzo. I think Jose would be a cheap Band-Aid that they need to make a run for the Timberwolves this year, and I like that. Another name, Herb Jones. He's exactly what the Lakers need. Exactly what the Lakers need. And I think you can make it work with Connect and a couple other pieces there. So Herb Jones is another name to watch out for too. But I think the Pelicans are by far the most interesting team as far as trades. You could throw Trey Murphy in there if you want to do a complete overhaul. Trey Murphy has the most value, but I don't know if they're willing to part ways with him.
Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, Zion Williamson. I think they're all up there. I think Herb Jones, that's a swing for a contender.
Mhm.
And he's on a great contract, which makes it
Yes.
even better. So I think he's the guy that's going to get moved. And what he gets moved for, we're going to be pretty shocked.
Yes. New York Knicks. I just want to leave this one up to you.
Nobody.
You don't need nobody.
Don't want to trade nobody. I think they're
Yabusele?
good. Yeah, what are you going to get for him realistically? I'd
That's fair.
rather just keep him at that point. No, I think they're good. There's really nobody on this roster that I want to trade. Josh Hart's been really good this year in the starting lineup.
We
Mike
did a trade
Brown.
half the roster last week, but that's what it
Yeah,
is.
for Giannis, you sometimes got to do what you got to do.
You slept on it. You slept on it.
I
Oklahoma City
slept on it.
Thunder. We talked about earlier. Nobody, but Hartenstein would be interesting. Orlando Magic. Fun answer is Paulo Banchero, the one that you crafted. Your hypothesis that came 6 months ago has come to fruition with them. Yes, they won in the NBA Cup and they look good doing it. But I need to see sustained winning with Paulo Banchero playing well. That is something I have not seen in his career thus far. And for them to move forward with him, I think they want to see it as well. The realistic answer, though, is Jonathan Isaac. Contract is super flexible, and they can make any type of move they wanted to improve this roster.
I go with Tyus Jones. I don't think he has anything to the team. I think he's a shell of who he once was. And Jace Richardson is already better than him.
Tyus looks out of shape too. Like he doesn't even. It looked like a mail it in season yet again from him, which is sad. 76ers. I put Kelly Oubre Jr. I think contenders would talk themselves into it, especially for the number that he's making.
If they don't have no plans of paying Quentin Grimes, I think it's Quentin Grimes. I think Quentin Grimes is also another potential swing factor for a team that wants to compete. He can be 80% of the league starting shooting guard. I think he's that good. He's just in a situation in Philly where a rookie's playing over him. You have a star point guard playing over him. It just doesn't make sense, for them to start him right now with their development plan. So I think Quentin Grimes needs a new start somewhere else where he can start.
In Memphis. Phoenix Suns. It was hard to find somebody on here. They just traded for Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green. They're not trading Devin Booker. They're not trading Malawatch. With the way Mark Williams is playing, they're not touching that. The only name I could come up with is way down on the list, and that's Nick Richards. He just has not played in a long, long time consistently.
That's the only one. He's also taken minutes away from Malawatch. Malawatch really hasn't proven himself just yet, and there's a lot of centers over him. Mark Williams, Iguodaro, Nick Richards. You have to lessen the crowd in that center room more, and I feel like Nick Richards is the easy odd man out.
Got to. Speaking lessening the room in the center room, Trailblazers needed the same thing. Rob Williams is the answer there.
Yeah, Rob Williams still has value.
Mhm.
If it's not Rob Will, a name that jumps out is Drew Holiday because of what he can offer, but his contract is ridiculous. Jeremy Grant, another player whose contract is also ridiculous. So Robert Williams is the most cost-efficient option there.
Sacramento Kings, I put everybody. Everybody. I still don't understand why they gave Keegan Murray a similar contract to Jalen Johnson. Made no sense at the time.
Yep. It's really, who are they? Who can't they trade?
Yeah.
I think this is the worst situation in the league.
San Antonio Spurs, it's relatively obvious. It would be De'Aaron Fox if he wasn't on a completely ludicrous deal. But for money matching purposes, I just put Harrison Barnes.
I like this roster how it is. I like the three guards. I would definitely not trade an all-star. No way. Would not do that. I'd probably just trade Jeremy Sohan or Champagny. There's someone like that. Not an all-star player that
That's
you
fair.
need.
I just wanted to gaslight. Toronto Raptors, RJ Barrett, you need to come to the Grizzlies for sure.
Toronto Raptors. Grady Dick. He's so underwhelming.
What's wrong with Dick, man?
He just doesn't do it right. Doesn't play it right.
Yeah.
He's out of Kansas. He had some tools. He could shoot really well. He was athletic, very athletic, and he could get above the rim. But he doesn't play much defense. His shooting is inconsistent. He doesn't really do anything offensively at a high level. He's just kind of an average player.
Yeah, Dick used to be bouncy, but just not as athletic and bouncy as he once was. Utah Jazz, Lowry Markkinen feels like the right answer. It was hilarious to me earlier this week. I can't remember who they were playing. I think it was OKC. OKC sat Shea like a couple hours before tip off. And then as soon as that news got out, Utah sat Lowry Markkinen. And I think either OKC has Utah's pick or Utah. No. I think OKC has Utah's pick at some point in the future, or maybe it's the other way around. But it was like a game of chess between who could sit the most players, and obviously the Thunder still won by 50. It did not matter, but I think it's hilarious the Jazz sat Lowry Markkinen after they set Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, that's extreme pettiness. Laura Markkinen, his contract is just huge, and he's getting paid like a star. And I don't know if he's a real star player. I think Laurie Markkinen is awesome, but for the contract that he's getting, I don't know if there's any team that's really gonna pay the price that Utah is gonna ask for him. Uh,
Detroit.
I wouldn't even do that if I was Detroit. I would stand pat. Laurie Markkinen is the only guy there that's like a veteran that it feels like he could be moved.
Washington Wizards is the final one. Would ideally be Chris Middleton. Can't trade him. Probably going to be CJ McCollum, but I don't know what the hell you would get. Washington feels like they've done everything right as far as drafting and tanking, but they just continue to not have luck in any of the drafts as far as landing the number one overall pick or even having the number two overall pick in a good draft class. Like it didn't happen. Alex Sarr is a good player, but he's not what number two would have been in this year's draft or next year's draft or whatever it is. It just seems like a team with bad luck, but is still doing all the right things. I like the pieces.
Marvin Bagley.
You off Bagley Island?
Yeah, that's him. It's Marvin Bagley. It's the only vet there for the most part. Well, you have CJ and Chris, but outside of them.
Okay. Fair. Joel, really appreciate you taking time today. Have a great weekend and looking forward to next week, bro.
Thank you for having me on.